visiting teachtodaytn.org. Teachtodaytn.org. Take our quiz and download resources to discover possibilities as an educator at teachtodaytn.org.
Hello.
Change tomorrow.
Ugh. Hey. Alright, guys. I'm trying to turn this air down a little bit. So, I'm getting ready to... I'm driving, getting ready to head to lunch to meet with a couple of my business partners. But, you know I have a lot of people that probably look at me like I'm crazy to think you just got your master's degree, 3 years ago, and after I got my degree, why did I walk away from corporate America, and what made me, decide to want to become an entrepreneur? And so, a lot of times, I feel like a lot of us go to school because that's what we're taught to do. And we think that's the best way to live the American dream and to provide for your family and, to make money. That's what you're supposed to do. So that's what I did. Both of my parents have their PhDs. They've always, they haven't ever pushed schooling on me, but that was my role models growing up. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go get a terminal degree eventually, and that's how I'm going to provide for my family. So that's the logic and the mindset I had. I come from, like I said, a dual PhD household. And after I got my bachelor's degree in 2008, I realized when I went to apply for jobs, I was getting job offers for like $14 an hour, and I was insulted, to be honest. $14 an hour, and I have a bachelor's degree in microbiology. What is that? But I guess that also came from me being naive when I was going to college. I just knew in my mind, after you graduate college, you probably make around $35,000, $40,000 a year with your bachelor's. That is what I assumed. And all the research that I did, there's these statistics that come out every single year that are like, oh, the median college grad makes $58,000 a year. I'm letting all y'all know right now, that's bull crap. That's a bunch of lies. That might be averaging in New York and California. That's not averaging down south. That's not averaging in, the Midwest. That's not the average college graduate income, period. So, heck, some people with their masters and PhDs, to be honest. But so that is what I was thinking about. I graduated with my bachelor's, and they was giving me job offers for like 14, maybe 15, I can't remember, but it was not a lot. It didn't appeal to me. So I got frustrated, and I decided that, I was going to go back to school. That's all I knew. So I started volunteering for master's degree programs, trying to find what I wanted to do. And one of the things that was so hard for me, I never wanted to be tied down to one thing for the rest of my life, because when you think about it, that's a lifelong commitment. When you go and get in the science field, when you go and get a PhD and you're studying like a very specific type of bacteria for the rest of your life, I couldn't even imagine myself studying one thing forever. That just seemed boring. Like, I was going to get bored, and I knew that. So it was really hard for me to come to a grasp of what I really wanted to do, because I know I get bored easily. So I finally did research, and I decided to be a medical laboratory scientist. So I went to school. I got accepted into Vanderbilt University, and I went to their medical laboratory scientist program, and I graduated from there. And it was good. At the time, that starting pay at the time was about $18 an hour. That was decent. At the time after I graduated with that, I had 2 children. I was actually pregnant with my 3rd child. So that was decent. So I kept working and working. I think about a year in, they had like a raise for the whole lab anyways, because they had a market raise, a market adjustment. So everybody's minimum pay now is at least $20 an hour, which is decent. But at the time now, I have 3 kids, and I was about to get married. So $20 an hour, 3 kids, being the breadwinner in my house, paying for 3 people to go to daycare, that's not a lot of money. And I was commuting a lot, so that wasn't enough. So after a couple years, I decided I was going to get my master's degree. I went to get my master's, and I went to a private school. Master's degree programs typically do not have any scholarships or financial aid. Most master's degrees, you come out of pocket. My master's degree program was for 1 year, and it cost me about $30,000. On top of the debt I already had from undergrad and from my medical laboratory scientist program. I had talked to a lot of doctors and different people in different fields before I went and got my master's degree, and one of my mentors kept telling me, Terry, you do not need a master's for what you want to do. Don't get it. And I'm looking at her like, well, that's easy for you to say. You know, you have an MD, PhD. You're highly educated. And you know what? I care about what I look like. And I want a master's or a PhD or something, because a lot of my friends from college have that. And I know I'm just as intelligent as them, and I can do it. So that was another reason I went back to school, just to be honest. Because I wanted to, you know, have a certain type of social status. So I went and got my master's degree because I also thought it was going to help project me through the career ladder, because I was looking at all these jobs. I found a job position like in Indianapolis. Oh, it pays like $100,000 to $150,000 a year, doing what I was doing. And you either had to have 5 years of experience or 3 years of experience and a master's. And so I had my 3 years of experience at the time, and I was like, well, dang, if I just go get the master's real quick. Or I was just looking at how that education seems to propel you through your career, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna go do that. So I went and got that degree. After I graduated, I applied for a couple of jobs. I didn't get anything at the time when I was applying, but then when I went back to work, I didn't even get a raise. I didn't get nothing. If anything, I got stressed. Like, they actually were doing something and they gave a raise when because I was actually on maternity leave right before I came back after I graduated, because I had my 4th child. So after I graduated, I went back to work. And at that time, during my maternity leave from work, because I worked full-time the whole pregnancy, the whole graduate school, I never stopped working. I worked that whole time to help, you know, with my years of experience, to help with my going back to school, getting my master's. And I think they did like a little adjustment in our lab, because it was a specialty lab and everybody else got a raise. And so I was at school, and that's when life started to hit me in a different way. They started giving out these little extra percentages of raises for experience. And I realized when I came back to work, it was like, oh, Terry, you have to do something for the next 3 to 4 weeks for us to make sure you're proficient enough to get an extra little raise. And I was just like, what? Just because I was on maternity leave, and at the time I actually went and got a higher education, you're questioning my proficiency, and I can't get a raise like everybody else just because I wasn't at work, but I was on FMLA. That didn't rub me the right way, because I was the only person in my lab that has a master's degree. So yeah, I didn't like how that felt. You're like, yeah, it didn't feel good. So I did whatever I had to do. Then I'm like, okay, great, you're still proficient. Okay, you can get your raise. Cool. I didn't like it. But it was it wasn't a raise because of my master's. Now, it was a raise because everybody got that raise. So I want y'all to know that. So I never got a raise with my master's degree while I was there. Then the politics from work started coming in. There was few people in the whole like lab area that had a master's, and I started feeling more pressure, like, oh, Terry might be trying to steal my job. You know, she wants wants to move up the ranks. No, I wanted to leave that lab and go to a whole nother place and make more money for my family. So it was just a lot of pressure and nonsense going on at work that I just didn't want to deal with. And while I was out on my FMLA with my 4th child, I realized I didn't want to go back to work at all, to be honest. I wanted to stay with my baby because my first 3 kids, I worked. I went to work after, the first child, I had just graduated college, but the next 2, I went to work or went back to school within 6 to 7 weeks of them being born, and they were in daycare. So I didn't get that bond time that I wanted to with my kids. And so with my 4th child, which I was like, that's gonna be my last child ever, so I need to spend as much time with her as I can. So I decided that I didn't want to go to work, because I got to a point to realize what I thought I was trying to do with my career was not really what I wanted for my family. I wanted to be able to provide, but I also wanted to be present. And the more that I worked and the more that I was applying for these jobs from these companies, like there was this one job, this company I applied for, but they were like, you have to go to training for 6 weeks in Quebec, Canada. And I had just had a new baby. They're like, all the way to Canada. And the thing that's so crazy, I was going to sacrifice that and be gone from my whole family, besides my baby, because I was going to bring her, for 8 weeks just to be able to get this job that potentially, I don't even know how much money they made in that lab, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't 6 figures. But I was willing to do that to try to provide. And I just got to the point to where I started thinking about life and what was important, and being around my family, being around my kids, being able to be present trumped any amount of money I could make. Because my 3 oldest kids, they were used to life with mommy's not really here much because she works. So, that's just life. Mom's not around. I didn't like that feeling. And so I got to the point to realize, I need to